200,000 years ago, being alone could kill you. Not eventually, quickly, sometimes within days, sometimes within hours. A single ancient human, cut off from their group, faced lions, hyenas, starvation, and cold, and no one to watch over them while they slept. The nearest fire might be miles away, and completely out of reach. Today, loneliness feels like an ache. Back then, it was closer to a death sentence. And your body still remembers that. But here's the darker question. What happened to the people the group didn't want? The ones who got pushed out, left behind, quietly excluded. Archaeology has an answer, written in bones, in graves, and in what wasn't buried with them. And that answer explains why isolation still physically hurts you right now, today. For most of human history, we lived in small bands of 20 to 50 people. That number wasn't random. It was the minimum needed to survive. One person could not bring down a mammoth alone. One person could not keep watch all night and still get any sleep. One person could not carry an injured body back to camp alone. Even after farming began, survival still depended on shared labor. Food, fire, defense, and childcare were all group projects. If you were cut off from that group, you didn't just lose company. You lost your food supply the moment the hunt came home without you. You lost the early warning system that kept predators away at night. You lost the hands that would have treated your wounds if you fell. Without a share of food, starvation could set in within weeks. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies found something chilling. A lone adult, separated from their band for more than a few days, rarely survived the season. The wilderness didn't care how strong you were, cared whether you had backup. In a cave in the Zagros Mountains, archaeologists found something remarkable. The skeleton of a Neanderthal man who lived roughly 45,000 years ago. He was blind in one eye, and his right forearm had been amputated. He walked with a limp that would have made hunting nearly impossible. And yet he lived into his 40s or 50s old age for a Neanderthal. He survived only because someone fed him. Someone helped him walk terrain his own body couldn't manage alone. Someone kept him inside the group long after he stopped being useful. His bones are proof that ancient humans could choose loyalty over efficiency. But his bones are also the exception that proves a much harder rule. Because for every one of him, archaeologists have found others who weren't so lucky. One skeleton, found alone on an open plain, told a very different story. Researchers uncovered skeletons with injuries that should have healed, and didn't. Broken bones set wrong or never set at all. Infections spread untreated for months before finally killing. These weren't accidents of ancient medicine. Splints, herbal remedies, and basic care already existed by then. These were signs that no one stepped in to give it. The difference is written right into the fossil record. It usually comes down to one simple thing, whether that person had people or didn't. Care, even then, was always a choice, never a guarantee. Sometimes isolation wasn't an accident at all. Sometimes it was the punishment itself. Ethnographers studying hunter-gatherer cultures documented the same pattern again and again. Banishment. Someone who lied too much, stole too much, or turned violent wasn't locked away. There were no prisons to put them in. They were simply told to leave. Walk beyond the ridge and don't come back to the fire. For an ancient human, that sentence was almost never survived. Banishment meant no share of the kill that night. It meant no warmth against the cold once the sun went down. It meant no one left to notice if you simply didn't wake up. In every practical sense, it was a slower version of execution. It let the group feel innocent while nature did the actual killing. Dressed up as mercy, because no one ever had to raise a weapon. Even after humans built cities, the fear of exclusion never actually left us. In ancient Athens, citizens could vote to banish a man for 10 straight years. All it took was enough votes scratched onto a broken piece of pottery. They called this practice ostracism. The exiled man lost his land, his rank, and his community in a single afternoon. Some historians call it the harshest punishment Athens had on the books. Harsher than any fine because it stripped away his community entirely. It stripped away the one thing his identity was built on, belonging. Death didn't end the sorting of who belonged and who didn't. Archaeologists reading ancient graves can often tell who was loved and who wasn't. Buried inside the settlement, wrapped carefully, surrounded by beads and tools. Buried alone, outside the boundary, without a single object beside them. Archaeologists have found burials exactly like this across many excavated sites. Bodies positioned oddly, sometimes bound at the wrists or ankles, sometimes weighed down with stones placed directly over the chest, as if the living were still afraid of them even after death. Researchers can't always know exactly why, but the pattern shows up often enough that it now has its own name. The deviant burial, a body kept separate, even from the ground itself. Every dig adds another name to that quiet, forgotten list. So why does any of this still matter to you, watching this alone on a screen? Because your brain was built during exactly the era we've just described. For nearly all of human history, being alone correlated tightly with death. So evolution installed an alarm for it. Loneliness isn't just an emotion. It's a warning light. It runs through the same biological pathways that register physical pain. Modern studies have found that chronic loneliness raises cortisol, your body's main stress hormone. It weakens the immune system over time. It's been linked to a higher risk of heart disease. Some researchers have compared its long-term toll to smoking several cigarettes a day. Your body isn't overreacting when isolation feels unbearable. It's running old software, written by ancestors for whom that feeling meant real danger. Not a flaw in your character, a survival alarm still ringing. The ancient human with no friends usually didn't get a slow, gentle decline. They got exposure, starvation, or an untreated wound, or a predator in the dark, with no one left on watch. Their bodies, when they're found at all, still tell that story. In the angle of a broken bone, in the absence of a single grave good, in the silence around a burial that nobody bothered to decorate. Every unmarked grave once belonged to somebody's whole world. We don't face lions anymore. Most of us will never be formally banished from a fire circle. But somewhere in the oldest part of your brain, that ancient wiring is still switched on, still convinced that being cut off from other people is deeply dangerous. Maybe that's worth remembering the next time loneliness feels bigger than it should, and every act of friendship undoes just a little what banishment once destroyed. It's not weakness. It's 40,000 years of evolution, still quietly trying, after all this time, to keep you alive.